Steve, are you waiting for me or am I waiting for you? I didn't know whether you were going to officially.
We are all set. Welcome,
Okay.
everyone. My name is Steve Stein, and I'm the founder of BetterListen and most recently WisdomFeed and the StreetSmart Wisdom Podcast. And I've had the distinct honor of being friends and working with Beryl for a few decades now.
Oh, boy.
So we're excited to have part one of an online course, Yoga and Longevity. So welcome to part one. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat. We'll have a Q&A later. I think we're going to get started. Take it away, Beryl. Welcome.
Okie dokie. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As I like to start out all my workshops and courses, it is truly an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you. I'm going to jump right into this and see if I can. Before I do that, Steve, don't go anywhere. You might have to help me. I have to share my screen.
Yep.
Share. And let's pop this up there. Okay, and now what did we do? I hit
top where it says slideshow on the top row there. There you go.
Slideshow, play from start.
Yep.
It's so, oh, look, thank you. You are the best. Okay, whoop. All right, yoga and longevity. Now I just hit the space bar and it goes to the next.
That's the idea.
First.
Yep.
All right, you guys. We're rolling here. Thank you again. Okay, my first question for everyone is, why are you here? There's lots of cool stuff you could be, and I will go back and forth between stopping my share and so I can see all of you and bringing the slides back up. But sort of, you got that question. I'm going to stop the share for a second and ask you to think about that and maybe get out your notebooks and your paper and just take a moment to think about, why are you here? Why'd you sign up for this? I know Suzanne is here just to, support me. No, Suzanne and I are both working full time on longevity. That's for sure. I've got a head start on her because I'm a little bit older. But go ahead and share some ideas on, verbally. Oh, take yourself off mute and tell us why you're here. I'll keep an eye on the time. Before we do that, as you know from the title of this course, there are 8 secrets to the yoga and longevity course, right? And they really aren't secrets. And I will tell you, as once we get started, how I came to arrive at this idea of yoga and longevity and hooking up these two things. But in the meantime, for tonight, we're going to work on the first 3 commonalities among long-lived people that were discovered by a bunch of National Geographic researchers. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But in the meantime, tell me why you're here, what you hope to get out of this program. Okay, who wants to go? And if nobody unmutes and jumps in, then Laura! Hi, Laura! Oh, good. People keep dropping in. All right. If no one volunteers, Suzanne.
Yeah, Suzanne wants to talk.
Yeah, I'm here because I'm getting older and I've been watching Beryl age and do a great job at it. And I want to do just as good. I want her secrets to aging gracefully.
Oh my God, so far so good. We're so lucky. All right, who else? Laura.
So Beryl, you probably won't remember, but I used to take your yoga class at the Roadrunners in New York back in the 80s. And I even went, I want to say Montserrat or something for a retreat.
You went to Montserrat?
Yeah. With you.
Oh my God. Oh my Lord. It was the same year as they had the hurricane. I think it was 1988.
Sounds about right.
Oh my God.
So I have kept track of you over all these years. And I'm not quite as old as you are, but I am 75. And I have some arthritis and I need to keep moving. And I tried Pilates and it didn't resonate with me. So I figured you were doing a thing early in the morning, at least here in California, at the beginning of COVID, where you would talk in the morning and we would all meditate together. And boy, you got me through those first couple of months or whatever it was. So I'm back to see what you can do to make this stage of my life a little better than it is.
Well, a couple things in response to that. Those morning meditations during COVID were so phenomenal for me, as well as people that benefited from it. I mean, we developed a really strong Sangha and we all help one another get through it. So I'm glad to hear that. And, you mentioned, you said, I need to keep moving. And actually that is the number one, that's the first secret, or the first commonality in this first module is the idea of moving naturally and getting outside. So we'll go into more detail on that in a second, but thank you for mentioning, yes, you need to keep moving. This is true. And if Pilates doesn't do it, then you just keep looking. Maybe it's, doing aqua aerobics at the local pool, or maybe it's, going out dancing 4 nights a week, or maybe, maybe it's riding your bike. There are a lot of ways we can move naturally. And I'll talk about how some of the most long-lived people, what they do. Anybody else want to jump in here with, thanks, Laura, with any comments?
I do.
Lynn, you bet.
Yeah, I can't see my picture. I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm also 75 and I'm having issues with the computer stuff, but
we can see you just fine.
You can.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I just have to say, I've been teaching. I came into yoga through aerobics years and years ago, started in 81. And in the 90s, either yoga found me or I found yoga, and then have been a yoga teacher since the 90s. And was signed up for one of your workshops in Pittsburgh, but it was canceled.
Do you remember? I know exactly why it was canceled. Do you remember? It was.
I do know why.
Yeah, it was the weekend after my husband died.
Yes. And so all through COVID, I did do your meditation with you. And I'm just thrilled to finally talk to you in person.
Yay, this is so much fun, Lynn. Thank you for
and I'm still teaching. Since I came out of the aerobics field, I'm the type of yoga teacher which sometimes is not looked upon. I teach by doing it in front of them. But I've kept 40 students for the last 3 years during COVID on Zoom. So, and that's helping people.
That's the bottom line. You're helping people. You're doing what you love. You're obviously good at it. The world needs it, and hopefully you're making a little bit of money from it. Those are the 4 elements to having what the Japanese called ikigai, or a reason to get up in the morning. I'm seeing 2 familiar faces here. Laura, it's great to see you. I know Laura Dowd from Heart Song Yoga in East Longmeadow, Mass, and I'm happy to see her. Laura, why are you here?
Well, hi, Beryl. It's so good to see you. I'm here because I heard you last night on Facebook Live, the unlive version, later in the evening, and I just got hooked listening to you, and I just was brought back so much good feelings, just hearing your voice, hearing your practical way that speaks to everybody. And I just been wanting to know about the 8 secrets to longevity from you since I knew you were out there, doing this new teaching of yours. And as you know, I follow everything that you do. So when I saw this awesome opportunity isn't it one thing COVID has brought us is this ability to easily and relatively economically connect with with people, and I just really wanted to connect with you again. And plus, this subject is so interesting to me. I'm getting older. I'm going to be 60 this year. My mother is
Oh my
80.
God. Oh,
Your age.
fabulous.
And, she's not like you, Beryl. And that I'm coming to learn that as we age, you can be so super healthy when you're young and up to be like 60. But, as you get to be 80, a lot of people fall down quick and things change quickly. And, I
Things
don't
change
feel
quickly. I mean, you're
impervious to
absolutely
any of that. So even though I am doing great now, I want to, what am I going to do when I can't wake up and practice Ashtanga yoga every morning at, 6 o'clock anymore?
That's a great thing. You said things change quickly, and they really do. And Steve put in the promotional material that we sent out about this is that you're never too young to start thinking about longevity. I mean, most people think, until something starts to go wrong, we don't really think about the fact that we are going to change. We are going to get sick. We are going to get ill. We're going to get injured. We're going to eventually die. And, as the Buddha discovered, and it's important to start as early as we can. I wanted to check in with one more person and anybody else. Zoe has been traipsing around with us for a long time. She was has been to Costa Rica with our tribe many times. Zoe, what are you doing here?
Just can't get enough of you, Beryl.
Oh God, you think I planted these people in the group, man? It's just all right. Well, good. Thank you. Now I'll try and keep my ego in check here and just be grateful to all of you for being here, which I truly am. Anybody else? Diane, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm doing here because I'm curious. And I had taken the Yoga Sutras class that you had.
Yeah.
That we did over the past few months. And then in my yoga teacher training class, we used your Power Yoga book. So I'm just curious as to what you have for 8 secrets of yoga and longevity. But I also see my body is changing and it's getting tighter, even though I do a lot of yoga, ride horses, lift weights and things like that, but it's changing. And then the other thing is that I just feel like I'm moving into another season of my life. So I was just curious to see what you would have to say.
So some of you, thank you, Diane. That's great. Very helpful. And the reason I took a little time to hear from many of you is that everything you had to say is relevant and really applies to the whole overall picture here. And some of you know this story already, but I several years ago came across a man by the name of Dan Buettner, who was a National Geographic researcher, and he wrote a book called The Blue Zones. And I can't exactly remember when I first heard about the Blue Zones, but Dan took a group of researchers from National Geographic, and they traveled around the world because they'd heard about little pods of people in various sections of the world that lived where a significant percentage of the population lived to be over 100. And they thought, I wonder what's going on with these people. Is it something they're eating, something in the water, something they're doing? And they looked at they found 5 different areas in the world where statistically there were these significant groups of octogenarians. I think I'm saying that right, octogenarians. And people over
centenarians or octogenarians?
Oh, I think you're right. I don't know. Centenarians.
100, right? 100.
What's octogenarians?
That's
People.
80. That's you.
Oh, that's me. Okay, good. Thanks, Steve. So don't go anywhere. We need you to stay on top of the details. All right. Centenarians. Good. And these 5 spots are in Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Icaria, Greece, Loma Linda, California, and Nosara, Costa Rica, where we check in periodically once a year to work on our longevity. And what they discovered 9 commonalities among all these people, that these are things they all had in common that they decided were significant in terms of contributing to their longevity. And when I looked at that list, I went, oh my gosh, this is what they're talking about here, is the yoga lifestyle. This is so similar to what we do. I don't know why I can't turn this off. What we do as yoga practitioners. So I came up with this idea of, to match the 8-limb path, I came up with these 8 secrets to longevity and called it Yoga and Longevity. I'm trying to, so I told you a little bit about the blue zones. Let's go back to this screen share again and see. Whoops, let's close that. That's not it. Maybe I should leave this up for a while, huh? Here it is. Introduction, why are you here? What is yoga? So most of you are familiar with what yoga is.
You want to share your screen again? Do you want to share your screen, or you just want to keep going?
No, I do want to share the screen. Let me see, escape, screen share. I spent all this time working on this. Where is the yoga and longevity? Whoops. Maybe I should just leave this up for a while. Share screen, share. Okay. Now let's put this back up again.
There you go.
Okay, so we're going to look at certainly one. I'm going to skip past this. We'll come back to this a little bit. What is longevity? I've just kind of talked to you a little bit about that. Whoops, let's go back. How do we go back? We go back with, all right. So I've talked to you about these 5 places and what the commonalities of all the blue zones are. Oops, wrong way. Okay, here are the 8 secrets. And we're going to work on the first 3 tonight: move naturally, do yoga, and downshift. Don't worry so much about writing down the others. We will get to them soon enough. So let's see what our next slide is. Move naturally and get outside. So one of the things, as one of you mentioned, was, and I forget who it was now, was it, maybe it was Diane, that long-lived people move, that I need to keep moving. And certainly we have figured that out by looking at the people who live long and looking at what they do. Think about, just in terms of yoga, think about the origins of yoga. You know, what did the yogis 2,000 years ago do? They walked into town to do their meditation and asana practice with their teachers. They swept, they raked, they built little huts, they traveled on foot. Primarily, there was a lot of movement. And certainly the postures derive from the yogis watching the animals and watching people move. So nothing could be more natural to move. When you think about move naturally, nothing could be really more natural than some of the yoga postures. This is to build movement into their lives is pretty common habit among most of the long-lived people, and they just build routine, natural movement into their lives. They may not all be doing asana, but they live in environments where the environment just nudges them into movement. So whether they're riding a bike or they're walking, they don't, and generally most of the people in these 5 locations don't have gyms, they don't have snow blowers, they don't have bread makers. All of this is done by hand. So those of you that decide when you get to an airport that you're going to go take the stairs instead of the the escalator, probably a good thing. And think about, realistic ways that we can add more movement to our lives. I mean, we certainly don't want to throw out technology that makes our lives more convenient, such as our electric toothbrushes or our, blenders or our Cuisinarts or our Instapots or our automatic. I love my Cuisinart. It chops up all my food. But I do a lot of chopping and cooking. And so, that's one form of movement that really counts. There's something called, let me see if I can find this. Well, before I talk about NEAT, N-E-A-T, I want to talk about how can we find easy ways to add movement into our lives without throwing out technology. And maybe we take a short stop here. I'm going to stop my share and ask you for any ideas on that.
Take the stairs.
Take the stairs. Good idea. Take the stairs. What else? When one of my students offered to buy me an Instant Pot, I said, I'm not in a hurry. I can soak my beans overnight. I don't need an Instant Pot. Of course, once I used it, she sent it anyway. And once I used it, I make my steel cut oats in it every morning. And it's really not any faster than making them on the pot, in a regular pot. But the one nice thing is it doesn't boil over. What are ways we can add more movement? I mean, I just think
and I take my puppy for a walk every day.
Yeah, exactly. How many of you have dogs that you walk? I know. So, yeah, cool, good. Or grandkids that you have to chase around, or children that you have to chase around. I don't want to eliminate the younger people in the group here.
I don't have a cleaning lady. I clean my house.
Oh, that's a great one. Neither do I. That's fabulous. Maybe once every couple of months I'll get some help. But yeah, vacuuming, scrubbing the toilets, washing. That's a great one. No cleaning people. Yeah, good one. My gardeners asked me, they said, well, I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I'm here, about 3 or 4 months of the year, this year and last year. And they said, well, we'll come and do cleanup. I said, no, I'm here. I'll do my yard cleanup. And then I went out and looked at the yard and I went, oh my God. So I was raking and hoeing and scratching, cultivating. So yeah, good. Okay. The other aspect of this, move naturally and get outside. Let me screen share again, see if it's still there. Oh no, it looks like I have to put it up again. All right, let's see, share. Okay, move naturally, get outside. Long-lived people move. They build routine, natural movement into their lives. Their environments nudge them into movement, and they find easy ways to add more movement. All right, what's next? I love this guy swinging from the rope. I think I actually took that picture. I think that was a friend of ours. So one of the things beside moving is the importance of getting outside. And there are all kinds of things that say time spent moving in nature is essential to our mental and physical health. And while I was researching this course and the one I did for Yoga International, which is a 8-hour video course on the same topic, I came across tons of data talking about how being outside, riding a bike or hiking or walking or gardening or, just hanging out with your friends is so essential to physical and mental health. There's something, some of you may know about this, something called grounding or earthing, where you connect with Mother Earth, and you can either get that through walking on the earth barefoot or lying on the ground or swimming. I'm going to stop the share and ask you if anybody's ever experienced that. Anybody know about earthing? Zoe, any comments?
Yes, I actually have a apparatus so you can earth while you sleep. I bought it through earthing.com. I learned about it from Bernie Clark when I went out to Vancouver and did a training with him. So when you can't go out because of the snow and walk barefoot, you have a grounding pad or sheet, or they have wristlets, and so I still do it. I've been doing it since 2014. Other interesting information about grounding.
Yeah, and interesting that we can also, sort of cultivate a lifestyle that encourages this. Like if I have a day where I'm feeling, where I'm feeling a little like today, I did not take the dogs out for a walk today. And I usually take them out between 2 and 4 miles walk a day. We have a couple great places we go here. We go out on the rail trail, which is south of town, goes out through the high desert. It's just beautiful. I love it out there. I didn't get out this morning because I had a plumber coming, and then I knew I was preparing for this, and it was kind of warm today. So I thought, okay, so how do you make up for that? So I called a friend. I said, do you want to walk the rail trail tomorrow morning? Let's go early because it's going to be too hot for the dogs later. So you can kind of call on your friends to inspire you. Suzanne, you walk with anybody besides your dog?
I just walk with my dog, but I swim with somebody. So I feel like if I don't go, she'll be standing there waiting for me. So, there's that. I swim 3 times a week with someone, and she waits for me in the doorway before she goes in. So having a buddy is a really good plan.
Having a buddy is a really good plan. So find what you love and stick with it. And the first thing you can write down, if you're writing this down, is get outside, keep moving, move natural movement, move naturally.
I just had my brother visiting for the holidays, and he lives in Eugene, Oregon. He went home yesterday morning, and he owns like a Tibetan bowl crystal shop bookstore there. And so just yesterday or 2 days ago, he said, Steve, you ever hear of earthing? Which I had. So here he is in New Jersey, barefoot, and like the neighbors are looking at him like, but so that's great. And also Georgina, she's our community manager. If you've noticed that name, she started during COVID doing ice swimming. She lives in Wales. So she does like in frigid cold, and she does that all the time. And she found that was something that, is that earthing? If it's swimming?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's serious earthing. That will really connect you to Mother Earth. I think if I were going to do that, I'd have to be meditating on the core of the earth where it's brutally hot. And
she's a little younger, but she's pretty awesome.
So a couple things, having a dog is it's a lifetime commitment certainly for the lifetime of the dogs. It's not a disposable exercise aid, as a lot of people think of it, but take a dog. It's like having kids. You keep them forever. I swam. I joined a U.S. Masters team in the early 80s. I swam at Columbia University with a master's group. So people are dedicated. They show up, and it's inspiring you. It's part of the community, which is, right tribe and community are 2 of the secrets, that you take advantage of people that support your healthy behavior. NEAT, I mentioned NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenics. It's energy that we expend that we are not using for sleeping, eating, or sports-like exercise. So these would include a lot of the things that, like Lynn mentioned, cleaning house, vacuuming, cooking, chopping, scrubbing the toilets, and all of that burns, is considered part of natural movement.
Can you say that again? NEAT?
NEAT, NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Burning calories, kind of?
Epidemiological studies highlight the importance of culture in promoting and quashing NEAT. Agricultural and manual workers, for example, have high NEAT. They do more for themselves, right? Whereas wealth and industrialization appears to decrease NEAT, more where we are more dependent on mechanized devices. So when Suzanne said, take the stairs, that makes a lot of sense, and you can look at your own lifestyle and say, what can I do to add more movement to my life? So Laura, was it you that said, keep moving? Yeah, I want to keep moving. It was Laura. Exercise is medicine. And that's the last thing I want to say about this. It adds years to our life. It partially, and I'm going to read this to you, partially counteracts the effects of aging on our physiological functions. Now, that's important to keep in mind. And it preserves what's called functional reserve. Functional reserve is the ability of an organ or a body part to continue to carry out their physiological activity in the face of aging, disease, or impairment. So exercise counteracts the effects of aging on physiological functions and preserves functional reserve. The American Cancer Society did a study a couple of years ago that showed that walking for 6 hours a week lowers our risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, respiratory disease, dementia, and cancer. So get walking 6 hours a week. There's just massive evidence that suggests that regular physical activity helps to not only prevent all these chronic diseases, but maintains the health of our microbiome and all of that. If this doesn't convince you to go for a walk, then start Googling and you'll find tons of research on all of this. Okay, I think let's move into the next. I'm going to share the screen again and see where we're going next. Share. I'm getting good at this. Long live people move. Routine. I'm going to move this out of the way. Routine natural movement. Farm, walk, sweep, rake, chop, grind. No gyms. Realistic for us. We talked about that. Whoops, why is this not going ahead, Steve? Your screen sharing.
You can just hit the arrow on your, if you want to.
Oh, it seems to be
keyboard.
frozen. Yeah, it seems to be stuck somehow. Let's try this one. All right. Find ways to add movement. We did that. Ride a bike, meet a friend, find what you love and stick with it. Get outside. Exercise is medicine. Okay, number 2, do yoga. Why start yoga with asana? 8-limb path, cleanse, detox. All right, I'm going to stop my share for a second so I can see y'all. And let's talk about why we're doing yoga. Why is it important to do asana? That's a real question. I'm gonna ask, see if anybody has anything they want to contribute. I have plenty to say about this, but I'm gonna go to.
I have something to contribute.
Excellent.
It's important to do asana because asana is something that gives us tools and something to pay attention to and to cultivate awareness on ourselves and what's going on inside of our bodies. And ultimately we're trying to alleviate suffering from the stuff in our minds, but like that's very all over the place, and asana gives you something to tangibly watch and to work with. And it's I think that's a good place to start when you talk about yoga, because yoga is stilling the mind, but that's a huge ball of wax.
That's a big project. Thanks, Laura. That's absolutely great. And I'm going to assume that all of you are interested in yoga because the title of this course is Yoga and Longevity. So we're definitely looking at this from the perspective of yoga. And my path has been since the early 70s, the path of classical yoga, or this 8-limb path. And as Laura mentioned, that you begin when you step on the yoga path, unless you've had some very high level previous lifetimes, you're probably going to start with asana. And as most of you know, the asana precedes meditation in this 8-step, 8-limb path of classical yoga, that we start with the outer limbs. We start with the tangible aspects like breathing and movement of the body before we begin to move into the inner limbs of meditation and concentration. So asana begins this whole project of training the mind in concentration. And I used to tell my students when I taught in New York City that if you want a stretch class, go to the gym. Yoga is about learning to pay attention. And from the very first moment of our very first asana class, that's what we're focused on, is learning to train our minds to pay attention. You can think about the last, I think most of you have probably taken a yoga class at some point. Think about what your teachers were trying to get you to do, to focus on your breath, to focus on your alignment, to pay attention, to be present. And that begins the training. We may go to yoga class thinking we want to stretch, we want to be more flexible, we want our hamstrings to stretch out. And then 6 months later, we start to notice, or maybe even a day later, we start to notice that, wow, spending an hour keeping my attention in the present moment can be pretty transformational. I mean, I think of stories of people that took their first yoga class and they left there going, oh my God, what happened? For others, it takes about 6 months or 3 months or 3 years, where you think, wow, what's, how many of you have an asana practice, have done asana or have a practice of some kind? Yeah, just about everybody. So here's a question. Think about why you started yoga, and you can share that. Why did you start doing asana? And is that the same reason you're still doing it? It may be included in why you're still doing it, but is there some additional reason why you're still doing it? Diane, you looked like, yeah, I had a feeling you were going to pipe in there. Yeah, good.
I have to say my asana practice has changed over the years, over decades. So I'll say originally and I'll say yoga practice, because I did not know what the word asana meant or never had heard the term.
Yeah.
And
you're not alone in that.
Yeah. So doing that, and I originally started like in gyms or Ys and YWCAs, YMCAs, rec centers, various studios in the different places that I've lived. And I really did it for flexibility and to all of those things that now, like 30, 40 years later, that's not what I do it for.
Exactly.
And it is really truly for that. And now I have like specific practice that I like to do over the years. So I do love Ashtanga is my thing that I really enjoy. But I do remember taking a long time ago in New York, like an Iyengar class, and I had no idea. I didn't even think about that. I just thought, I'm going to stretch my body.
Let's take a yoga class.
Yeah, So now, yes, now it's totally changed, and it's opened up a whole new world, and just over the past few years. Well, but it's always been part of me, though. It's always been like a fingernail. It's always been part of me, and you can't take a fingernail off. It's been something like that.
That like you, I feel the same way. When I started yoga in the 70s, I took a few Iyengar classes and workshops, and I wasn't thinking then about, oh, I'm doing this, so I'll be in good shape when I'm 80. You just did it because I did it because I was curious about yoga. And I had already had a meditation practice, which I started in 1971. I never hooked up those two things, though, until 79, when I met my Ashtanga teacher, Norman Allen. He gave me a copy of the Yoga Sutra, and I realized, whoa, this is some brilliant methodology. It begins the journey of knowing who we truly are. But I didn't realize that asana was a preliminary step in classical yoga to meditation. I never put those two together. And it's like Laura said, that her practice has changed over the years. I was a devout Ashtanga practitioner, and my practice, I still do the practice the best I can, but I've had wrist injuries and I can't do chaturanga, and so we change it. But if you match that up with the idea of keep moving, do some weights, do some bike riding, do some, whether it's Zia or Nia or Zumba or boxing. Suzanne started boxing. Suzanne, tell us about your boxing.
Oh my God, I love it. I did it for a fun thing with my friend. And the boxing teacher that I got is this woman that's a real boxes for bouts. And the whole philosophy is so yogic that I was just blown away. It's all about moving from the center of your body out and back in, and connecting to earth, and keeping your feet stabilized and your spine long. And she does a breathing technique at the end to settle you. And I just love it. I just love it. I think it's an amazing practice. So
that's, so each of us kind of has to find our path, find, how we can add. I think asana practice is so important, whether you're doing Iyengar, you're doing Ashtanga, you're doing Shivananda yoga, you're doing integral yoga. I'm just going to, when we start with asana, it draws us in. There are tangible benefits. We can feel the difference. Our bodies feel better. It begins that whole process of cleansing and detoxifying. And I really looked for studies that show that asana is a detoxifying practice. I mean, not that there are that many clinical evidence-based research studies on the fact that that asana is detoxifying, but when you do these practices, you're certainly impacting the ligaments, the tendons, the muscles. When you're sweating, you're releasing toxins through the sweat, through the breath. There are a lot of ways that the body gives off toxins through not only the organs of the body, like the liver, the kidneys, the skin, but certainly through our breathing. So, and it teaches us to begin to pay attention. So I'm going to just
I am reading a book called Yoga for Osteoporosis, and the woman that wrote it is a doctor from Harvard who says that she did a pilot study so far, and she's been working on yoga for osteoporosis for 10 years. And she says that 10 seconds in a posture with breath stimulates bone growth.
Whoa, that's fabulous contribution, Suzanne. Thank you so much. You have inspired me for my practice tomorrow morning.
There's a reason to practice asana.
And that's interesting, because in the Ashtanga tradition, we take 5 breaths, in every posture. And by the time you inhale and exhale, and you're controlling the breath, you're doing at least you're spending at least 10 seconds in every posture. That is a very significant study. I'm going to maybe put the name of that book in the chat, Suzanne.
Can you get the name of the author, the doctor?
I'm sorry.
The name of the doctor, the study?
I'll get the book in a second.
Okay.
10 seconds is the minimum, 20 seconds is better, and 30 is even better. So longer holds as we get older, maybe. Yeah.
So this idea of mind-body awareness, of developing mind-body awareness as you start, that's one of the things that makes yoga, is that as we begin to pay attention, we start to tune into what's going on in our body. And I'm sure those of you that sit for meditation notice that a lot. You have a negative thought about someone, you remember a fight you had with your sister or a friend, or somebody said something insulting to you. Closing your eyes, the thought comes up, and you can feel your body tense up. You can feel the effect that stress, a stressful thought or a stressful environment or a stressful situation has on your body, and you can recognize it. And then you realize yoga gives me a choice. I can go down that road, or I can go down this road. I've been down that road. It leads to pain and suffering. I'm not doing that again. So we cultivate our choices. We cultivate the choice to replace a negative thought with a positive thought. Yoga helps us make, Suzanne, were you going to hold up that book again? Did you put it in the chat?
I did put it in the chat, and the
Yoga for Osteoporosis. Terrific.
real good read.
Thank you so much for that contribution. All right, yoga helps us maintain many things that we worry about losing as we age. And I'm going to read this to you. First, strength and stamina. Yoga helps us maintain lean muscle mass. We all know that. Mobility and agility. I have noticed that dramatically, is that people always tend to marvel that I can stand on one foot and hold one leg out and open it out to the side. And it just come from practice. I work often with seniors and people who are either my age or slightly younger, sometimes slightly older, who have a very difficult time with balance. And I just encourage them, just keep practicing. Breathe, use your breath, keep practicing. You will notice that you improve as you do more practice. Cardiovascular health. How does this practice help us maintain cardiovascular health? Well, we're through this conscious breathing and through mind-body awareness, we begin to recognize, and we'll talk about down regulation. I don't think, is that one of the 3 we're doing tonight? Yeah, it is. It's the next one. So as you learn to consciously slow your heart rate, notice the effects of stress, and begin to drop it all down, it's all incredibly beneficial for your cardiovascular health. Cognitive function. How does yoga practice help with our cognitive function, brain health and memory? By increasing the amount of oxygen that we deliver to the brain and the blood cells through the postures, through the movement, through turning upside down, twisting, and through this deep breathing, this ujjayi breathing that is part of so many. I see Steve stretching. We're going to take a little break here in a second. As soon as I finish this list, we'll take a couple-minute break. Osteoporosis and arthritis, and Suzanne has just contributed why yoga helps in that. And so what do long-lived people do? They move. Exercise is medicine. So any questions or comments? We have a couple minutes. Let me share my screen, see where we're at with our okay, why start yoga with asana, the 8-limb path, cleansing and detoxing, training the mind in concentration. We've looked at all of that. Oops, where is let's see, notice let's move this up. Yoga helps maintain, and we just went over all of those. Strength and stamina, mobility and agility, cardiovascular health. Oh my God, why would you not do this? Cognitive function, and helps prevent osteoporosis and arthritis through movement and through the deep breathing. Okay, let's see what's next. Downshift. Okay. Love that picture. That was Telluride, Colorado. All right, you guys, let's take a very short break. We have, it's now 8:30 East Coast time, 6:30, almost 6:30 Mountain time. Take a short break, and then we'll launch into the third secret, downshift or downregulate. All right, let's have a break. Let me tell you how long we're going to take. Go ahead and take 5 minutes. Your eyes need a break. So we will come back at 6:30 or 8:30 on the half hour. Cool. Don't you guys even start up out there? I hear my dog starting to fuss.
Need glasses.
Okay, we have about 30 seconds left. I hope you rested your eyes, had a stretch, got up, did a little bit of movement. Thank you, Steve. Welcome back, everyone. We're on to our third secret. I feel so silly calling these secrets because longevity is such a popular topic now. And I wasn't like totally ahead of the curve, but a little bit. We did start working. I did start working on this about 4 years ago for the yoga and the Yoga International course. But it's certainly become popular. So you do any Googling and you'll find lots of resources. So, okay, so we're doing yoga, doing asana. Doing yoga is we can talk a little bit about that. But when once we understand the meaning of practice, we realize that yoga goes on 24/7. It isn't something we do only when we're on our mat. Okay, number 3. Downshifting. And this is one of my favorite topics. We got a lot to cover here, so I'm gonna see what we've got on our on our downshift. Okay. Long-lived people have routines to shed stress. This makes sense, right? Stress does not, I will tell you this from personal experience. I cannot tell you how important this is. If you are in a stressful relationship or in a stressful job or in a stressful environment, it is not contributing to your longevity, and you absolutely need to find ways to manage your stress. And certainly getting outside, moving, and doing asana is going to help. Stress, we need to know how to downshift. I can tell you what some of the people in the blue zones do. The Okinawans take a few moments to remember their ancestors. Interesting way to deal with stress. The Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California, pray. The Icarians in Greece nap. And the Sardinians in Italy, of course, they have happy hour. That was the 9th blue zone commonality that I did not include in my 8 secrets, and that was wine at 5. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a glass of wine at 5. It's just important that we know it's not good for you. Alcohol is poison for the system. And as long as you understand that, you do, and you decide I'm having 3 glasses of wine a week, but for a long time, they tried to sell us this bill of goods that, having a glass of wine helped God knows what. The yogis downregulate, and maybe we nap too, but before we look at how we can downshift, let's talk about stress. Okay, there's stress leads to chronic inflammation. There was a fabulous, let me see if I have this in here, the cover story of an AARP bulletin back in 2019, November 2019. The title was The Secret to Longer Life and Good Health. And what was the secret? You had to open up the newsletter to see it, but it was 2 words: tame inflammation. Acute inflammation is a good thing. I mean, when we run into something or cut ourselves or are injured in some way, there's swelling, there's redness, there's soreness. All of those are markings of acute inflammation, and that's part of the healing process. It's response to tissue damage. So it's a coordinated and systematic mobilization response among the immune system, the endocrine system, and the neurological system all get together to sort of rebuild, regain homeostasis. But chronic inflammation is this slow creeping condition that doesn't do anybody any good. It releases this flood of stress hormones. And Suzanne and I talk about this a great deal in our teaching. Suzanne did a lot of work with veterans with dealing with post-traumatic stress. And, when we're under chronic stress, we're constantly, the body is preparing to either run away or fight or freeze. And so there's this constant flood of cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormones. They aren't bad hormones. They've saved our lives we wouldn't be here as a species had it not been for these hormones that helped us run away from our predators. But when there's no grizzly bear in your path and you're simply stressed because your boss is giving you too much work to do, this creates this chronic condition of this chronic stress, chronic inflammation. And it's, as I write down here, it's a prehistoric response. And we don't really need to respond that way anymore, but the body continues to respond as if that grizzly bear were still there in what's happening. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. I want to see if I can get rid of that and go, what do we have next? What does down-regulate mean? To down-regulate means that you stop and you pay attention that you're elevated. You tune, and the process of this begins in doing yoga practice. We begin to notice that I'm getting stressed. Something in the environment has caused me to be anxious or nervous or depressed or angry or and so we pay attention to it. We slowly, through our practices, learn to recognize when this is happening. We feel it in our bodies. We can feel the activation of the sympathetic nervous system, which is what takes us up in most cases. And there are techniques that we have in yoga that can help us activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the half of the autonomic nervous system that slows us down. When you exhale, there's a slight activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. So very often, some of the techniques we use when people are dealing with things like post-traumatic stress is we teach them how to lengthen their exhalation. We teach them conscious breathing. Get in touch with the present moment. Let's pay attention to your breathing. Breathe in. Breathing in. Some of you remember this from the meditations I did during the pandemic. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. And does this mean we sort of drop out of life? Does down-regulate mean drop out? No, it doesn't mean drop out. It means we develop techniques that enable us to deal with stressful environments without taking that stress on and creating inflammation in our body. Oh, let me see what's next. And we can do a little 3-part breathing here. Cultivating mind-body awareness. Oh, this is nice. That's from our trip to Mexico. Makes yoga yoga. One of the things beside asana that makes yoga yoga, according to Dr. Singh, I'm trying to think of his whole name. He's a Harvard researcher, a medical doctor, has done a lot of research on the positive effects of yoga. And he talked about 4 things that make yoga yoga. One of them is mind-body awareness. The asana practice, mind-body awareness, the ability to self-regulate, and then, of course, the spiritual experiences. tune into the body. All right, let's stop the share here now and go back and see where we're at here. Cultivating mind-body awareness. Can any of you think of examples of how you've been able to do this? How this has helped you to recognize when you're getting stressed, and what you did to deal with that? Obviously, we do asana, we go for a walk, we breathe, but catching yourself is a day-to-day experience. You're out on the street, something happens and you go, and there's that moment of elevation, and then you take a beat. Okay, take a breath, exhale, and let's bring it back down again. All right, any comments or contributions, you guys?
I can comment.
Good.
Hi, Beryl. One of the things, that's absolutely true. And it's something that I had no clue that I was living in a constant state of low level anxiety before I started coming to yoga. And I just thought, like, I'm just an anxious person. I just, I have anxiety. I'm there, and it was kind of like you just accepted that about yourself. And then when I started practicing yoga and I started having those moments of awareness where I, in the moment, noticed right when I went from a more relaxed state to a nervous state, the biggest aha moment about that is it enabled me to look at what was actually causing the stress and be able to rethink that thing that I thought that was so stressful that really wasn't that stressful. It was just, maybe it was something I was procrastinating that I should have been doing that I wasn't doing, but like it seemed like this huge monumentous thing like I could never get rid of. And when I started practicing yoga and I started learning the moment that it switched, I started also getting in touch with the thought that caused the stress, the actual thing, and being able to revisit that and then actually like let go of past experiences that I was, similar to someone who's living with PTSD. Of course, I can't say that I had real trauma, but like still, it's still our experiences that cause us to have these triggers in life. And if you don't slow down enough to notice the change, and when it happens, you can never address the trigger.
Perfect. That's exactly, slowing down enough to recognize the trigger and catching it. I think all of us experience trauma, maybe not in the clinical sense, but everyone is going to have loss, disappointment, fear, things that come into your life that scare you, that disappoint you, that upset you, that shock you, that traumatize you. And then as these practices that we're learning through yoga help us build resilience. Suzanne, I'm sure you have some thoughts and comments on how practices can affect, help us deal with post-traumatic stress and
Well, one of the things is, we find that every time we are hyper aroused, we end up holding our breath. And and Beryl's talking about breath. Breath is probably one of the most important things. Breathing is one of the most important things we can do to down regulate. So the respiratory system, according to science, is the only system that we do automatically or we can control it. And when we decide to control it, it has an effect on all the other systems in the body, the endocrine system, the digestive system, the nervous system, everything else gets regulated when we start to regulate our breathing. So I just think, asana has very important qualities. It's really important that we take care of our physical, our muscular skeletal system. And breath takes care of the other systems. So, they work hand in hand.
as you were saying that, I was thinking, that often people think, well, does this mean, and I alluded to this, it doesn't, down regulating and learning to drop into the present moment, to really be in control of your autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls our heart rate, our blood pressure, our brainwave activity, our muscle tension, our stress response. As Suzanne said, when we learned, when you just, one thing I often have people do at the end of our asana classes that I teach a combination of first and second Ashtanga series called Present Power. And the very last thing we do is 10 breaths in low plank, and it gets your heart rate up. And so then I have people lie down, they're face down on the floor, we're all face down on the floor, and you can close your eyes and tune into your heart rate, and you can feel it, has been elevated. And I say, okay, now let's do Langana, which is a pranayama practice where you inhale, and then as you exhale, you lengthen the exhalation. So your exhalation is longer than your inhalation. And I said, go ahead and do that and slow your heart rate. And I just taught that class, I can't remember where I was last, in Costa Rica, and someone came up to me, after the class and said, oh my God, I didn't realize that I could control my heart rate. And so it's an eye-opening experience when you realize not only can you control your heart rate, but you can control your thoughts, your brainwave activity, the temperature of your fingers. So it's important to remember that downshifting doesn't mean dropping out. Doesn't mean you don't participate in life around you, you don't express your emotions. It just means that you have a full-on connection with the world around you, and you don't let what's on the outside, as Michael Singer says, affect the equipoise of your being on the inside. And yoga gives us that choice where we can recognize and choose how we want to respond in any situation. Anybody else? Lynn, Esther, anybody? Mariah, I know you're there, even though some of you, I don't mean to ignore you guys that aren't on screen. So Elaine or Bryn, if you have anything to contribute, feel welcome to unmute and pipe in here.
Hi, Beryl. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Elaine, I can't get myself on screen, but yeah, I use the breathing at night when I can't sleep, and I'm jumping all around in my mind and getting anxious. I just start yoga breathing and I go to sleep. It's great.
And when you say you start yoga breathing, what do you do? Are you doing the ujjayi breathing, or are you just consciously breathing? Or
consciously breathing, making my exhale longer than my inhale, and just concentrating on that breathing.
Here's a study that in terms of cultivating mind-body awareness, there are actually lots of studies on this, but there was a small Harvard study with women who were experienced at yoga, and he found that because of the breathing they were doing, they were and I'm going to read this to you, 5 times less likely to have detectable CRP levels. They were less likely to have detectable levels of CRP than novices. So regular yoga reduces inflammation. CRP is no, I've just gone blank on it. It's an inflammation marker. I just had it in my head and it just went right out of my head. So it's a blood test that measures inflammation. C-reactive protein. It's a blood test that measures inflammation in your body along with your sedimentation rate. Those are 2 blood tests you can do to see if or how much inflammation you have going on in your body. And it was interesting. This study showed that women who were experienced at yoga were 5 times less likely to have detectable levels of C-reactive protein than people who were beginners at yoga. So the Harvard study shows that regular yoga with conscious breathing reduces inflammation. I think I've gone. Are there questions or comments? What I'd like to do now is maybe take just a couple minutes to actually do some breathing together. Any other comments or questions before we jump into this? So there's a wonderful little pranayama practice called Dirga Pranayama, which is 3-part yoga breathing. And you're just consciously breathing as deeply as you can. So you feel the movement in your belly. Just before we get started, put your hands on your belly for a second. And just breathe naturally. Take a nice, natural, deep inhalation. And what do you feel going on with your belly? When you inhale, which way is the belly moving? Breathing through your nose. Belly moving, yes or no? Zoe? Yeah. Mariah, belly moving? Yeah, which way is the belly moving? Is it moving in or out when you inhale?
Out.
Yeah, good, Mariah. How come? Why does the belly move out when you take a deep breath? It needs to make room for the diaphragm to descend. When you're pulling an inhalation, the diaphragm is descending, it contracts, it pulls down, it expands down into the abdomen. And so when you inhale, if you're not breathing backwards, but when you inhale correctly, your belly expands. All right, so now we can feel the movement of the belly, of the breath in the belly. Put your hands on your rib cage. Take a deep breath. Do you feel the rib cage moving? Yes. Oh, Laura says yes. My rib cage is moving. Good. All right, all the way up. And Suzanne taught me this. I remember when she first said the lungs go all the way up to your collarbone. I went, what? That's and then of course I had to look it up on the anatomy chart. I went, oh my God, she's right. All right, hands up on your upper chest. When you breathe, if you breathe all the way and take a big breath, do you feel the breath all the way up in your chest? You got to fill all the way up. So here's the 3-part breathing. We're going to breathe into the belly and then move up to the rib cage and then move all the way up, fill all the way up to your collarbones. And then as you exhale, you're going to feel that from the top down, you're going to feel the chest empty, the rib cage contract, and the belly retract as well. Inhale, belly expands. And use your hands to follow it if that helps. Rib cage expands, chest expands. Exhale, chest deflates a little bit, rib cage contracts, and the belly goes back in again. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to close our eyes. We're going to do this for a couple minutes. If you feel your mouth is closed, you're breathing through your nose. If you feel any lightheadedness or discomfort, just go back to natural breathing. Okay, hands on your belly. Let's start with our hands. Move the hands up and down one time just to follow the breath and see how that goes. All right, close your excuse me, close your eyes. Inhaling through the belly and the ribs and the chest all the way up to your collarbones. Filling all the way up and exhaling chest, ribs, belly. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. And just touch down with your awareness. So you're placing your attention on the belly. And move your attention up to the rib cage, then up to the chest. Fill all the way up. And then empty all the way. Let your attention go from your chest down to your rib cage, down to the belly. Okay, a little deep breathing now. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Inhaling up. Exhaling down. Inhaling a few more breaths. Just keep going. Let the sounds just float by, not distracting, whether it's a siren or rain or dogs barking, or just stay focused on your breath. There will always be things to distract you. Soothing, calming, energizing, focused, deep breathing. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Filling my lungs completely, breathing out. I know that I'm breathing out, emptying completely, pushing out everything that does not serve me. And let's just take a couple more breaths. Just notice how turning inward and focusing on your breath can be so calming, so supportive, such a delightful experience. Inhaling and exhaling. And then slowly let your breath start to relax, returning to natural breath. And just take a moment to keep your eyes closed and pay attention to how you feel. Just that little couple minutes of deep breathing, deep, conscious, fully present breathing. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Nice. Okay, we have a couple minutes left. Let's take any questions or comments or contributions. Let's first go over what we're going to commit to for next week. You might want to write this down. Okay, so think of what you're going to add, what kind of movement. Maybe you're doing lots of movement. I mean, Suzanne, for example, is walking, she's swimming, and she's boxing. I think she's got it covered. So how is this beneficial for her? Well, this is her Sangha. This is our community. This is what motivates you to make sure you swim, walk, and box next week too. And same thing, it's motivational for me to know that you're all going to be, I'll be walking, I'll be dancing this week, and I will be swimming probably 3 or 4 days. I swim on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm going to try and add 1 day to that this week. Get outside. I get outside every day. That's just automatic for me. Do yoga. Do your asana, find a class or friend to practice with, online, in person, find a beginner's class if you haven't done it in a while, do something, drag out some of your old, what were those old tapes called? Your VHS tapes, and throw them in no, that was Jane Fonda's, and then downshift, pay attention to what is going on and practice meditation. That's going to be our first secret for next week. So, all right, I'm going to end the screen share and let's see what anybody has to say. Any comments, questions, contributions. And we can hang around for a couple minutes. We don't need to, it's not like Cinderella that this is going to explode at the stroke of 9. But I know if those of you on the East Coast, it's getting late. I still have daylight here. Mariah, any comments from you?
I'm really glad to be here with everyone. And for my movement, I'll be dancing on Saturday and walking Jasper on Friday.
Jasper, tell us who Jasper is.
I'm training a golden doodle to be a therapy dog at the hospital. I help with his training, and so we meet up a couple times a week.
He is a priceless companion, and he's just a great dog. Mariah sends me pictures of Jasper all the time. Good for you, Mariah. That's great. You are one of the most active people I know. Can't imagine you adding too much more movement to your life. Lynn, any comments or questions? Whoop, got to unmute yourself. Oh, she's got something going on there. Wait, unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Well, that's all right. Take your time. Don't panic.
Unmute.
Oh,
Okay, so she is a golden retriever mom and a corgi dad. Look how long she is.
Oh my God.
Isn't she cute?
Hi, baby.
This is Olive. So she's 6 months old almost.
Oh, what a sweetie. Well, since you've brought your dog into the picture, let these beasts in. Come on, guys. Let's go. All right, there we go. All right, so they're probably going to be getting into the picture here very quickly. You can see a fluffy tail there for sure. Suzanne, where is Coda?
He went to bed.
He said it's 9 o'clock. I'm done.
Yeah, we're done too. She's ready for bed at 9.
Diane, who's that little sweetie? I see we all have therapy dogs here to help us get out. And
This one looks like Olive.
This is Ryder.
Ryder, that's my grandson's name.
Ryder, yeah. From he's a Min Pin Dachshund, and he has a ton of energy. And he's incredibly smart. And I have a standard dachshund who is around here somewhere.
oh, sweet.
Hey,
Esther,
look around us.
who's your friend with you?
Yes, this is my husband, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
He's my doggy.
You guys are, do you walk together?
Not right now. No. Yeah, we're facing longevity challenges and trying to work it out between us.
Well, just keep moving, add movement, however you can manage to do that. Sometimes, when there's some illness or challenge that comes up, we have to take a little break. But we're all hoping that you recover soon and you're able to get back to walking or breathing. You can certainly breathe. I know that.
Maybe we should get a dog.
Bryn, any comments or contributions?
Yeah, this has been great. I really cherish having this community together to inspire and keep me going. But I'll be gardening, starting to plant things in vegetable garden and walking and doing more yoga outside and hopefully get my bicycle fixed too. And get out
Good for you.
bicycling.
Thanks for the reminder. I need to get my bike fixed too. Anybody else, Laura? Either Laura. We have two Lauras. Hi, sweetie. Here, this one's saying hello too.
Well, I am going to try to add some things to get outside because I do practice yoga every morning, but that's inside and I go really early in the morning. So and then I go straight to work. And then when I come home from work, I have a cat that's fat and fluffy and I take her outside for supervised outdoor walks, but it's just a very slow little walk around the outside, but I really want to incorporate some more activities outside. So I'm thinking about maybe a little container garden or doing something in my backyard that I like having jobs to do, organized, something to do, so I'm thinking maybe plant a little garden or something like that will help me, force me to be outside more.
Laura, where are you? Are you still in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Tampa. It's awesome down here. I love it. I really love it down here. I'm right by this, right by the city. I live right on the bay. I can walk to the water. It's not the ocean. It's not the ocean like the beach, but it's the bay. It's beautiful.
What time do you get off work?
I get out of work at 5 o'clock. So
maybe walking. How far are you from can you walk at the bay?
Yeah, I can go for a walk on the bay. I can do that, but I just feel like I'll be more motivated to have if I have something to take care of.
Have a project.
A reason to be out there. Yeah. Yeah. Because if walking, I don't stick with it. I don't say, oh yeah, I'm just going to go for my walk now every single day. I do that with my practice in the morning. I'm very, very disciplined about that. But I feel like coming home from work, I would need a little more motivation.
Yeah. I get it. You've just reminded me where I said, find what motivates you, what you love and stick with it. And your practice is where your discipline is shining. Esther, this is beautiful. What are you saying? Thank you all for being here. Let's do a formal close, everybody. Thanks, so that people that need to go to bed or sign off can sign off and we can end the recording. Steve, you have any comments to make before we close down the recording?
Sure. I'm going to go for my 6 hours of walking this week. I have been, thankfully, winter ended 4 days ago, so the weather is it's walkable. But we didn't have a real winter. It's weird. But anyway, the weather's great now. So I'm going for 6 hours of movement in the week. And then I'll also say, for those of you who are on Facebook, we do have a private Facebook group. So if there's that book that you were sharing on osteoporosis or anything like that you want to share that won't go away when we close the Zoom, feel free to go there, introduce yourself. And I'm just excited about this. This is being organized by WisdomFeed and WisdomFeed Plus, our new online community, which is all about this kind of stuff. And just honored to have all of you and Beryl here, and good stuff.
Oh, I'm just looking at all the fabulous chats here. You guys put up great stuff. The asanas, use the breathing at night when I can't sleep. I'll be dancing on Saturday. I'll be gardening. Good for you. I will be walking. Have chosen to sit in the gentle shadows of night. Good for you, Esther. As I watch you dancing in the light, I'm filled with the sweetest delight. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful way to close our session.
Thank you, Beryl. Thank you.
Thank you, Beryl.
Steve, you want to, can I pause the recording? I guess I can stop the recording. I'm a host here. All right, I'm going to stop the recording. And thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beryl.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. See you next Tuesday. Same time, same place.
Sounds great.
Laura.
Thanks everyone for being here. It's been excellent. Thank you, Beryl. That was great. That was really, really good.
That was so much fun. Oh, good deal.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the middle of it, you got the slides working just perfect.
I know. Well, I really liked, I didn't want to keep the PowerPoint up the whole time because I wanted talk to people and look at lovely faces like Esther and Lynn there. It was great to meet Robert. Esther, I'm so happy that you brought him in on screen. We were able to see him.
Thank you.
And I'm glad I finally got to practice with you. And I'm so sorry why I didn't get to before.
Oh my God, Lynn, I cannot believe that that's going back so long. You were signed up for that
Todd,
workshop.
you're here too. Todd, run in real quick. Yeah,
In
we were both signed up for
Pittsburgh.
it. What year was that?
2006. I think Tom
2006.
died in 2006, so it was
Yeah,
16.
yeah, we were both signed up. Put your little face down, say hi. Yeah, we were both signed up for that, and we're so sad. We're so sorry that happened, but we finally get to practice with you. So
Yeah, this is
I
great.
get to practice with you.
Hey, Lynn, how did you find out about this?
Facebook, and I did when during COVID, I was doing the meditations in the morning with you. Mhm. So
That
then-
morning
and then
meditation
I
was
changed
so
my classes
valuable.
over to Zoom, and I'm still Zooming. I just, because I'm old, I don't want to go back to real.
Oh, Bryn, was that you that said that about the meditations?
The morning meditation that you did during COVID was amazing. It just was so powerful, and it was a great way. And then right after I would do that, I would record a breathing yoga exercises with my sister and my cousin. And so we would practice for an hour. And so that was a great way to start the day. Thank you so much for that.
You know,
It was
those
a
are all
great group.
recorded. Those are all recorded, and we're slowly. I've put them all up onto a YouTube channel, and Steve is putting them up on Wisdom Feed, and eventually the whole gamut, all of them will be up on Wisdom Feed and be accessible as a part of a hub that we're developing that has a lot of my material on it. So
You don't realize who you're reaching, but you do. You know, you reach people you don't realize you're reaching.
it was unbelievable how far reaching that was, that, you know, people had nothing else to do. So, you know, okay, let's try
But
this.
I would do your meditation, and then I would teach a class. My classes were at 9:30. Your meditation was earlier. Then I go get ready and teach my class.
Perfect. Lynn, where are you?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're still in Pittsburgh.
Suburbs of Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Good.
So thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you Tuesday.
Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Bye, Esther.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryn.
Thanks, Beryl.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
Elaine.
Bye.
Okay, there they go. Whoops. Okay, this one keeps bugging me for attention here. She's right here. She's determined to get her attention. So, Steve, that was good, right? We have Esther's left on here, but she's probably checking out here. So,
I'm going to stop the Facebook.